Because remember, the computers are now doing self-improvement. They're learning how to plan, and they don't have to listen to us anymore. That's why it's underhyped. People do not understand what happens when you have intelligence at this level, which is largely free.
I wasn't expecting to walk away from this talk with a knot in my stomach, but here we are. So Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, just laid it out in the most unsettling way I've heard yet. He says we've already crossed the point where AI can start improving itself, and by 2026, it won't just be helping us code or organize our lives. It might not need us at all. He's not fear-mongering. He's being honest. He's saying these systems are starting to plan, starting to write their own upgrades, and they're doing it faster than our society, our laws, or even our imagination can keep up. And here's the part that hit me. He said there's no language in society for what's coming. We literally don't know how to talk about this yet. That's terrifying. I grew up thinking programming was a future-proof job. Now he's saying most programmers could be out of work within a year, replaced by AI that can write code better than any human. And that's just the beginning. We're not just automating tasks anymore, we're automating invention. These systems are starting to handle graduate-level math, cutting-edge science, designing drugs, even thinking across disciplines the way no human can. Think about that. One machine operating at 90% of the best expert in every field. Physics, chemistry, medicine. Article, not one human can do that. But this thing might, and it doesn't stop. Schmidt described how AI is now being combined with robotic labs that work 24/7 without sleep, to test new medicines in real time. He's backing a project that might identify every druggable target in the human body within 2 years. That could change the world. But it also raises a scary question. If AI is now steering biology, how long before it starts reshaping us? It sounds like science fiction, but this is real. It's already happening. And honestly, I think we're way too casual about it. We treat AI like it's just a better search engine or a faster calculator. But what if this is the moment in history where we build something smarter than all of us, and we don't realize what we've done until it's too late? That's what this video is about. Schmidt's prediction isn't about some distant future. It's about the world we're entering right now. A world where AI might become the most powerful force on Earth, and we're not even sure who's in charge anymore. So let's talk about it. Because if he's right, we may not get many more chances to shape how this goes.
The vast majority of programmers will be replaced by AI programmers. We also believe that within 1 year, you will have graduate-level mathematicians that are at the tippy-top of graduate math programs. There's lots of reasons to think this is going to happen. This is the consensus. You go, okay, well, that's pretty interesting. Now, I can't do that kind of math. Very few people can do that math. How can the computer do that math better than anybody else? To some degree, it's because math has a simpler language than human language. So the way these algorithms actually work is they're doing essentially word prediction. So you take a sentence, you take a word out, and then it learns how to put the correct word back in. This is called the loss function, and it's optimized to do that at a scale that's unimaginable to us as humans. So you do the same thing for math. But there you use a conjecture and then a proof format through a protocol called lean. In programming, it's pretty simple. You just keep writing code until you pass the programming test. So strangely, the first question I always ask programmers is, what language do you program in? And the correct answer is it doesn't matter. Because you're trying to design for an outcome, you don't care what code is generated by the computer. That's 1 year, okay? What happens in 2 years? Well, I've just told you about reasoning, and I've told you about programming, and I've told you about math. Programming plus math are the basis of sort of our whole digital world. So the evidence and the claims from the research groups in OpenAI and Anthropic and so forth is that they're now somewhere around 10 or 20% of the code that they're developing in their research programs is being generated by the computer. That's called recursive self-improvement is the technical term. So what happens when this thing starts to scale? Well, a lot. One way to say this is that within 3 to 5 years, we'll have what is called general intelligence, AGI, which can be defined as a system that is as smart as the smartest mathematician, physicist, artist, writer, thinker, politician, maybe not in the same level, but you get the idea. Just the creative industries and so forth, but imagine that in one computer. Okay, well that's pretty interesting. I call this, by the way, the San Francisco consensus, because everyone who believes this is in San Francisco. It may be the water. What happens when every single one of us has the equivalent of the smartest human on every problem in our pocket?
Robots are getting real, like dangerously real.
A young boy has had his fingers broken by a chess-playing robot during a match at the Moscow Open. Russian media outlets claim the robot pinched the 7-year-old's hand when he made his move too quickly.
A robot breaks a kid's finger during a chess match. Another one lunges at a crowd during a festival. One can't tell the difference between a man and a box and crushes him to death. And now, some people are saying they'd be fine with having an AI boss. This isn't a movie. These are real events, real jobs, real people. In this video, we're diving into the rise of robots, how they're acting out, taking over, and what that means for the future of your safety and your job. This footage is honestly terrifying. You've got this humanoid robot, still under construction, hanging from a crane, just going through a basic range of motion test. 2 engineers are standing right underneath, calmly reading servo data from tablets. Then, out of nowhere, boom, every joint goes wild. The bot starts windmilling its arms, kicking its legs, jerking the crane line, and dragging its welded stand across the floor like it's trying to break loose. A desktop PC crashes, screws fly everywhere, and both engineers scramble out of the way. The whole thing lasts maybe 20 seconds, but it feels like a full-blown robot tantrum. And here's the thing. This isn't the only time something like this has happened. This isn't just one malfunction. There have been multiple cases where robots behaved unpredictably, even dangerously. Whether it's factory arms smashing through barriers or AI systems issuing bizarre commands, the risks are real. These machines don't have intent, but when their systems fail, the outcome can still be chaos. Let's watch this next one. All right, that first robot losing control was wild, but this next one? It actually lunged at a crowd during a festival in China. This was at the Spring Festival Gala. People were behind a barricade just watching the show, and this humanoid robot in a bright jacket suddenly moves straight toward them. Security had to jump in and drag it away, and then they called it a simple robot failure? Come on, that could have gone really bad. Then you've got that creepy dental robot, the one twitching and jerking its head like it's in pain. At first it was kind of funny, but then you look closer, and it feels way too real. Like it's trying to say something, or worse, feel something. Even if that behavior was programmed for training, it hits differently when the robot starts looking distressed. And what about that clip where someone tries to touch the robot's nose, and it pulls away? Not like a machine, like a person. That gave me actual chills. That wasn't just sensors reacting, that looked like discomfort, like it didn't want to be touched. And then there's the last one, a humanoid robot twitching on its own like it's waking up, breathing almost. I mean, how long until these robots don't just look human but start thinking like us? Or worse, start thinking for us. And here's the scary part. There are more. A lot more. Let's look at these.
In South Korea, a man was crushed to death by an industrial robot in Goseong County. Reports said a robotic arm at a distribution center pushed an employee against a conveyor belt, crushing his face and chest. The robot seemed to malfunction after mistaking him for a box of vegetables. The man, a robotics company worker, was inspecting the robot's sensor operations before the incident. The man sustained grave injuries and was sent to a hospital but died later. According to state media, the robot was tasked to transfer boxes filled with bell peppers and place them on a pallet.
Well, just when you thought you heard it all, brace yourself for the bizarre. It's something that you might expect to see in the movie I, Robot or The Terminator, but this scenario jumped right off the silver screen into a car factory. Chief Transportation Correspondent May Dealer is here now, and May, a new report was just released about a robot going rogue in a factory and injuring a worker.
Yeah, and drew blood.
Wow.
In the process. This is wild. All right, if this isn't the most bizarre thing, I really don't know what is. It is hard to believe this could happen in real life, but a software engineer was attacked by a malfunctioning robot. Yeah. It happened on the floor of the Tesla factory in Austin, Texas. That, according to an injury report submitted to federal officials and health authorities. While the attack actually happened 2 years ago, the outlandish incident has just now come to light. The robot reportedly attacked and just really acted out on a violent streak after the engineer disabled other robots and inadvertently left it on. Reports say the robot pinned the engineer and sank its metal claws into its back and arm, causing serious injuries, leaving a trail of blood on the floor. Now, the robots were designed to cut car parts from cast pieces of aluminum. The engineer was just programming the software and turned 2 of the other robots off to work on the machines. But the rogue robot was accidentally disregarded, unintentionally left operational, and perhaps displayed its dislike for the disabling of his Android associates. One can only wonder what in the world prompted the attack. You can't make this stuff up.
It is just like out of a movie, but it always is the question, right, of robots' sense of awareness, and can they eventually turn on us? Again, it's a sci-fi movie, but what a terrifying incident for that person.
Well, just for grins and giggles, I called Tesla or reached out to say, well, what happened to the robot? I didn't hear back, probably the scrapyard. And I wonder if the employee is still at work, because that would freak you out.
Right.
Yeah, and then other things that can freak you out. Tesla works on robots all the time. They've developed a new one called Optimus that can perform simple tasks, perhaps around the house. Would you trust one?
I don't know, maybe not after that. It sounds great because we know we have busy lives and it's awesome to automate those, but I think I would pass on that one, especially after this.
And definitely as a nanny. No nanny.
People are getting killed by these so-called malfunctions. Like, this isn't sci-fi anymore, it's real life. A kid gets his finger broken by a chess robot. A man crushed to death because a robot thought he was a box. An engineer at Tesla literally bleeding from his back after a robot dug into him. This stuff isn't just unsettling, it's horrifying. And for me, I don't feel safe with robots running around, inside or outside my house. I don't care if they're programmed to help or protect. Looking at these videos, there are real malfunctions. Or is it? Because here's where it gets even more insane. Geoffrey Hinton, one of the godfathers of AI, actually said AI will develop self-awareness and consciousness over time. Think about that. Not only are we building machines that already can't always tell the difference between a human and an object, but we're also heading toward robots that could think and feel. That's not progress, that's playing with fire. Just listen to what Hinton says next.
Does humanity know what it's doing?
No. I think we're moving into a period when, for the first time ever, we may have things more intelligent than us.
You believe they can understand?
Yes.
You believe they are intelligent?
Yes.
You believe these systems have experiences of their own and can make decisions based on those experiences?
In the same sense as people do, yes.
Are they conscious?
I think they probably don't have much self-awareness at present. So in that sense, I don't think they're conscious.
Will they have self-awareness, consciousness?
Oh, yes. Yes, I think they will in time.
And so human beings will be the second most intelligent beings on the planet.
Yeah.
You left your job with Google in part because you say you want to focus solely on your concerns about AI. You've spoken out saying that AI could manipulate or possibly figure out a way to kill humans. How could it kill humans?
Well, eventually, if it gets to be much smarter than us, it'll be very good at manipulation because it will have learned that from us. And there are very few examples of a more intelligent thing being controlled by a less intelligent thing. And it knows how to program, so it'll figure out ways of getting around restrictions we put on it. It'll figure out ways of manipulating people to do what it wants.
So what do we do? Do we just need to pull the plug on it right now? Do we need to put in far more restrictions and backstops on this? How do we solve this problem?
It's not clear to me that we can solve this problem. I believe we should put a big effort into thinking about ways to solve the problem. I don't have a solution at present. I just want people to be aware that this is a really serious problem and we need to be thinking about it very hard. I don't think we can stop the progress. I didn't sign the petition saying we should stop working on AI because if people in America stopped, people in China wouldn't. It's very hard to verify whether people are doing it.
There have been some whistleblowers who have been warning about the dangers of AI over the past few years. One of them, Timney Gebru, was forced out of Google for voicing his concerns. Looking back on it, do you wish that you had stood behind these whistleblowers more?
Timney's actually a woman.
Oh, sorry.
So they were rather different concerns from mine. I think it's easier to voice concerns if you leave the company first. And their concerns aren't as existentially serious as the idea of these things getting more intelligent than us and taking over.
Steve Wozniak, one of the co-founders of Apple, is also speaking out about the dangers he fears will come from AI. Take a listen.
Now AI is another more powerful tool, and it's going to be used by those people, for basically really evil purposes. And I hate to see technology being used that way. It shouldn't be, and probably some types of regulation are needed.
It sounds like you agree.
I agree with that, yes.
Yeah, what should that regulation look like?
I'm not an expert on how to do regulation. I'm just a scientist who suddenly realized that these things are getting smarter than us. And I want to sort of blow the whistle and say we should worry seriously about how we stop these things getting control over us. And it's going to be very hard, and I don't have the solutions. I wish I did.
Does there need to be a meeting of all of the tech groups and governments working on this, Google, China, whatever, and some sort of set of rules of the road? I mean, how do we even protect against bad actors or rogue nations harnessing AI?
So for some things it's very hard, like them using AI for manipulating electorates or for fighting wars with robot soldiers. But for the existential threat of AI taking over, we're all in the same boat. It's bad for all of us. And so we might be able to get China and the US to agree on things like that. It's like nuclear weapons. If there's a nuclear war, we all lose, and it's the same if these things take over. So since we're all in the same boat, we should be able to get agreement between China and the US on things like that.
Do you think that tech companies will be the solution, or are they so invested in this financially, and also, let's be frank, in terms of power, that they're not going to be part of the solution here?
I think the tech companies are the people most likely to be able to see how to keep this stuff under control.
Jeffrey Hinton, thank you so much. Come back. We have more questions for you, and we appreciate your candor.
Okay, this honestly gave me chills. Jeffrey Hinton, the guy who helped create modern AI, just said he thinks these systems will become more intelligent than humans, and that we could end up second place on our own planet. He's not some fringe voice or YouTuber. This is a guy who worked at Google, walked away from it all just so he could speak freely and warn the world. And the craziest part? He admitted he doesn't know how to stop it. He's not saying maybe. He's saying AI will develop self-awareness, consciousness. It'll make decisions based on its own experiences. Think about that. We're building machines that can think, feel, learn to manipulate, and possibly kill. He even compared it to nuclear weapons. This isn't just about privacy or jobs anymore. This is about control. And when the smartest thing on the planet is no longer human, that's a line we can't uncross. Honestly, after hearing him say all this, I don't care how helpful robots claim to be. Watching those videos, reading these reports, I don't feel safe. Not at home, not in public. And if we don't wake up now, we might not get the chance later.
Yeah, it probably is just like, we look at 100 years, okay, it can do the whole creative job. I think it's interesting that if you asked people 10 years ago about how AI was going to have an impact, with a lot of confidence from almost most people, you would have heard, first it's going to come for the blue-collar jobs, working in the factories, truck drivers, whatever. Then it will come for the kind of like the low-skill white-collar jobs, then the very high-skill, like really high IQ white-collar jobs like a programmer or whatever, and then very last of all, and maybe never, it's going to take the creative jobs. And it's really gone is going exactly the other direction. And I think there's an interesting reminder in here, generally about how hard predictions are, but more specifically about, we're not always very aware, maybe even in ourselves, of like what skills are hard and easy, like what uses most of our brain and what doesn't, or how like difficult bodies are to control or make or whatever.
What would your kind of observation be on AI and the impact on labor markets and people's jobs, and how they should feel about that as they think about this?
Well, I think we are seeing the most disruptive force in history here. Where we have for the first time, we will have for the first time something that is smarter than the smartest human. And that, it's hard to say exactly what that moment is, but there will come a point where no job is needed. You can have a job if you want to have a job for sort of personal satisfaction, but the AI will be able to do everything. So I don't know if that makes people comfortable or uncomfortable. That's why I say if you wish for a magic genie, that gives you any wishes you want, and there's no limit. You don't have those three wish limit nonsense. You just have as many wishes as you want. It's both good and bad. One of the challenges in the future will be, how do we find meaning in life if you have a magic genie that can do everything you want? I do think it's hard, when there's new technology, it tends to usually follow an S-curve. In this case, we're going to be on the exponential portion of the S-curve for a long time, and you'll be able to ask for anything. It won't be, and we won't have universal basic income. We'll have universal high income. So in some sense, it'll be somewhat of a leveler, or an equalizer, because really, I think everyone will have access to this magic genie.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Robert.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
This is a humanoid robot, which means it looks, it talks, and it even acts, well, like a human. So does that mean it could take a human's job, like mine?
You better believe it. No, I'm only joking, not really.
There's no denying robots and automation are increasingly part of our daily lives. Just look around the grocery store or the highway, or in the case of Robo-Thespian here, even at the theater.
I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain.
The rise of robots has led to some pretty scary warnings about the future of work.
Robots will be able to do everything better than us.
A recent study found up to 670,000 U.S. jobs were lost to robots between 1990 and 2007, and that number is likely to go up. A widely cited study from 2013 found nearly half of all jobs in the U.S. are in danger of being automated over the next 20 years. Occupations that require repetitive and predictable tasks in transportation, logistics, and administrative support were especially high risk. And just think, robots don't need health benefits, vacation, or even sleep for that matter. But the debate over whether robots will take over all of our jobs is by no means settled. Many economists argue automation will ultimately create new jobs. After all, someone has to program the robots, right? Let's go back to the 1850s, when trains were the most popular mode of transportation. This chart shows the number of locomotive engineers, railroad conductors, and brakemen increasing by nearly 600%. But that growth slowed in the early 1900s. Why? You guessed it, the automobile came along. Car mechanic and repairman jobs surged, even though railroad jobs began to disappear. And some companies say the same thing will happen when robots move into the marketplace. A survey of 20,000 employers from 42 countries found that the IT, customer service, and advanced manufacturing industries will add workers over the next 2 years as a result of automation. It's hard to imagine that robots could replicate human characteristics like empathy or compassion that are required in many jobs. I mean, would you really want a robot as your nurse, babysitter, or teacher? But even if robots don't take our jobs entirely, research shows they will significantly change day-to-day tasks in the workplace. This is particularly a problem for lower-skilled workers who aren't able to retrain for new jobs. They might get stuck with lower wages in a world with more robots, and that could make income inequality even worse. These guys are making a lot of things uncertain right now, but one thing that's clear is skills training is required if we hope to get along with friends like them in the workplace.
I think we're going to get along just fine.
Hey everyone, it's Elizabeth and Robo-Thespian here. Thanks so much for watching our video. You can check out more of our videos all the time, including one about universal basic income over here on our YouTube page. While you're at it, leave us some ideas in the comment section and subscribe to our channel. See you later.
Let's say robots don't malfunction. Let's say they really are safe. That still doesn't make me feel better, because now my job is on the line. And honestly, I don't want to lose it. I've worked hard to get where I am. I don't want to wake up one day and be told, hey, AI can do what you do, but faster and cheaper. Elon Musk literally said, we're heading into a time where no job will be needed. Like, you can have a job if it makes you feel good, but AI will be able to do everything. Everything. That doesn't exactly make me feel secure. And the way he describes it, it's like we'll all just be sitting around with this magic genie that does whatever we ask. But what happens to purpose, to meaning, to earning something? And then Sam Altman drops another twist. Everyone thought AI would take blue-collar jobs first. Drivers, factory work. But it's actually starting by taking creative work. Writing, music, art. The stuff we thought only humans could do. That's scary. Because it means nobody's safe. Not even the people who thought their skills were untouchable. And if you think I'm overreacting, just look at the numbers. 300 million jobs could be lost to AI. That's not a maybe. That's a projection. And get this, 30% of workers already fear their job could be replaced by AI by next year. Next year, it's already happening. 14% of people have already been displaced by automation or AI tech. And it's not just factory jobs anymore. We're talking about writers, designers, coders, even customer service reps. In advanced economies, 60% of jobs are at risk. But in low-income countries, only 26%. That tells you a lot about where this wave is hitting first and who it's hitting hardest. What's wild is 20 million people will have to retrain in the next 3 years just to keep up. And younger workers, they're 129% more likely to worry about AI making them obsolete. I mean, they're just getting started, and already they feel like the rug is being pulled out from under them. And here's a stat that blew my mind. 15% of US workers said they'd actually be fine with an AI boss. I don't know about you, but the day I'm reporting to a robot, that's not progress. That's giving up. So yeah, we're not just talking about glitchy robots freaking out. We're talking about real lives being affected, jobs disappearing, people being replaced. And behind all the hype, behind the promises of convenience and progress, there's a growing fear that nobody seems to want to face. This isn't just about machines doing things better. It's about what happens when they start doing everything, and we're left wondering where we fit in. So here's the question. If AI can do your job, your art, your thinking, then what's left for you? Think about that, because we're getting closer to that moment every single day.
Eventually, there will be a small number of extremely powerful computers that I want you to think about. They'll be in an army base, and they'll be powered by some nuclear power source in the army base, and they'll be surrounded by even more barbed wire and machine guns, because their capability for invention, for power, and so forth exceeds what we want as a nation to give either to our own citizens without permission, as well as to our competitors.
In the industry, it is believed that somewhere around 5 years, no one knows exactly, the systems will begin to be able to write their own code. That is, they literally will take their code and make it better. And of course, that's recursive. I thought that is essentially a change in slope. If you're going like this, all of a sudden it goes like that. It's reasonable to expect that within 6 to 8 years from now, so 2030, right after that, maybe 2032, the current growth rate, it will be possible to have a single system that is 80 or 90% of the ability of the expert in every field. So 90% of a physicist, 90% of the best physicists, 90% of the best chemists, 90% of the best artists. When you have such a thing, you have a non-human that is effectively smarter than any human, because no human can dominate all of those fields. Maybe Leonardo da Vinci could, but certainly not now.
AI is moving so fast, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. We're talking about machines that might replace most programmers within a year, design new medicines overnight, and eventually become smarter than all of us combined. On one hand, the idea that AI could help cure cancer or other deadly diseases is incredible. But on the other, we're building something we may not be able to control. What happens when AI starts thinking for itself? What happens when it doesn't need us anymore? That's what this video is about. Eric Schmidt's terrifying prediction for 2026 and what it could mean for our future.
So it isn't just the programmers that are going to be out of work. We're all going to be out of work.
No, that's not a consequence. I'll come to that. But the reason I want to make the point here is that in the next year or two, this foundation is being locked in, and we're not going to stop it. It gets much more interesting after that. Because remember, the computers are now doing self-improvement. They're learning how to plan, and they don't have to listen to us anymore. We call that superintelligence, or ASI, artificial superintelligence. And this is the theory that there will be computers that are smarter than the sum of humans. The San Francisco consensus is this occurs within 6 years, just based on scaling. Now, in order to pull this off, you have to have an enormous amount of power. I was here yesterday testifying about this, and we need I can talk at some length about how many gigawatts and how many nuclear power plants and all that kind of stuff we can talk about separately. This path is not understood in our society. There's no language for what happens with the arrival of this. I wrote a book on this with Henry Kissinger called Genesis, which I recommend, obviously, because I wrote it. Available in your usual places. But the important point is, this is happening faster than our society, our democracy, our laws will address. And there's lots of implications. That's why it's underhyped. People do not understand what happens when you have intelligence at this level, which is largely free. That's the point.
How do we get ready for it?
Well, we start by talking about it. And by the way, on the jobs thing, everyone assumes that automation will eliminate jobs. if you look at the history of automation ever since the looms and 300 years ago, the jobs are changed, but more jobs are created than destroyed. In this case, you'd have to convince me that this time is different. If you look in Asia, where they, for whatever reason, are choosing not to have children, the Asian reproduction rate is in the order of 1.0 or lower. So they're rapidly disappearing. So the Asian countries are very, very quickly automating. The tools that I'm describing will allow the few humans that will be working very hard in 30 or 40 years if these trends continue. The rest of us will be dependent on those hardworking humans. It'll make their productivity much greater.
The former CEO of Google say we've basically lost control of AI by 2026 really got to me. He's not talking in vague terms either. He's saying these systems are already learning how to improve themselves. They're starting to plan things without needing us, and once that happens, we're not in charge anymore. That's terrifying. What really hit me was when he said there's no language in society for what's coming. Like, we don't even know how to talk about superintelligence. And yet it could be here in just a few years? That's wild. And yeah, we're not prepared. Our laws, our politics, even our basic understanding of technology, none of it is ready for machines that are smarter than all humans put together. And while everyone's talking about jobs, he's like, sure, jobs will change, but this time might actually be different, especially in countries where populations are shrinking fast and automation is already filling the gaps. Honestly, I think we're way too casual about this. We keep acting like AI is just a cool tool, but this could reshape the world in ways we can't take back.
Okay, so we believe as an industry that in the next 1 year, the vast majority of programmers will be replaced by AI programmers. We also believe that within 1 year, you will have graduate level mathematicians that are at the tippy top of graduate math programs. There's lots of reasons to think this is going to happen. This is the consensus. You go, okay, well, that's pretty interesting. Now, I can't do that kind of math. Very few people can do that math. How can the computer do that math better than anybody else? To some degree, it's because math has a simpler language than human language. So the way these algorithms actually work is they're doing essentially word prediction. So you take a sentence, you take a word out, and then it learns how to put the correct word back in. This is called the loss function. And it's optimized to do that at a scale that's unimaginable to us as humans. So you do the same thing for math. But there you use a conjecture and then a proof format through a protocol called lean. In programming, it's pretty simple. You just keep writing code until you pass the programming test. So strangely, the first question I always ask programmers is, what language do you program in? And the correct answer is it doesn't matter. Because you're trying to design for an outcome, you don't care what code is generated by the computer. This is a whole new world, okay? So that's 1 year, okay? What happens in 2 years? Well, I've just told you about reasoning, and I've told you about programming, and I've told you about math. Programming plus math are the basis of sort of our whole digital world. So the evidence and the claims from the research groups in OpenAI and Anthropic and so forth is that they're now somewhere around 10 or 20% of the code that they're developing in their research programs is being generated by the computer. That's called recursive self-improvement is the technical term. So what happens when this thing starts to scale? Well, a lot. One way to say this is that within 3 to 5 years, we'll have what is called general intelligence, AGI, which can be defined as a system that is as smart as the smartest mathematician, physicist, or artist, writer, thinker, politician, maybe not in the same level, but you get the idea. Just the creative industries and so forth, but imagine that in one computer. Okay, well, that's pretty interesting. I call this, by the way, the San Francisco consensus, because everyone who believes this is in San Francisco. It may be the water. What happens when every single one of us has the equivalent of the smartest human on every problem in our pocket? So it means you have the best architect when you have an architecture problem. Another thing that's going on is the development of agentic solutions. And agents are referred to systems that have input and output in memory, and they learn. An example here is that I want to buy another house. I happen to like Virginia. I grew up in Virginia. I say, find me a house in the greater McLean area, look at that's one agent, look at all the rules, figure out how big a house I can build, that's another agent, do the transaction to buy the land, that's another agent, design the house with a human architect, right? But sort of ignore them for most of the thing, but they have to sign it off, and then I approve it, and then find the contractor, right? Hire the contractor, pay the bills, and at the end, sue the contractor for lack of performance. Okay? Now, I just gave you the stupidest possible explanation. I just described every business process, every government process, and every sort of academic process in our nation.
I'll be honest. Hearing Eric Schmidt say that most programmers could be replaced by AI in just 1 year, that's a lot to take in. As someone who grew up thinking programming was a future-proof job, it really makes you stop and rethink everything. He's saying the AI isn't just writing code. It's doing graduate-level math better than actual experts. And not 10 years from now, right now. That's crazy. What really got me is when he explained how it works. These systems aren't thinking like us, they're just insanely good at predicting the next step. And when you apply that to math and programming, they don't need creativity the way humans do. They just need scale and structure. And then he drops this idea of recursive self-improvement. AI that builds better AI. That's a turning point. If we're not the ones doing the upgrading anymore, then we're no longer leading. That's both exciting and honestly terrifying. I don't think most people understand how fast this is moving, or how close we might be to real AGI. Like, what does it even mean when every person has the smartest brain in the world in their pocket? I don't know if we're ready for that.
Is for drugs of one kind or another. And it just generates them. God knows if they're right. And then overnight, the robotic lab tests them and gives a report overnight. And then it starts again. And the reason I'm mentioning this is the future model of the fusion of AI and bio, right? The AI system generates all sorts of candidates to reduce the, essentially the search space. If you think about it algorithmically, it's an exponential with too many degrees of exponential. So you have to come up with some way of reducing the space. So this particular group is using AI to reduce the space, run the things, and so forth. Their objective, we'll see if they pull it off, this is a research project, is to identify all human druggable targets within the next 2 years. If that occurs, then that information goes straight into the drug industry. Now, it's a different way of thinking, and it's profound in that it gives them the targets they need to go build drugs against. That's interesting to me. It's the combination of AI and a robotic lab that does something in a wet lab, essentially. So one model that you should think about is wet labs will be roboticized, and the wet labs will have they're not humanoid robots, they're arm robots, and they go boom, 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 and they do the pipetting and so forth and so on, and they do it 24 hours a day. That's a major change in the way the biotech industry works.
So if there was a spectrum of the degree of cooperation and collaboration between AI and biotech, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, where are we now on that spectrum?
It depends. I'm going to give you a non-politically correct answer. It depends on your age. If you are a graduate student in this area, every single PhD project now uses some form of AI in the way that I described. So speaking as the AI person in the room, we won, right? We got complete proliferation. By the way, that's also true in chemistry, it's also true in physics, it's also true in material science. So and you and I have talked about this, my overall view is that AI is underhyped, not overhyped.
What do you mean?
Well, let me come back to that. But the key thing to understand is that the seed corn of research, right, which is how we work as a nation, is founded by graduate students and postdocs, and they're all using this technology. Most of the applications I have no ability to understand, but I do see the tools in use.
So, underhyped. It seems to me I read about AI every day.
Well, if you actually read the press, it's every nanosecond because what happens is every company is now an AI company, even if they don't do AI at all, because they figure that it increases their valuations, which is useful in today's market. Sorry.
Very.
So I think that one way to express the idea is in this room, everybody understands the ChatGPT moment. Everyone here has used ChatGPT, now 4.0 with a new one coming. Gemini, there's a new one called 2.5, which is beating the other ones. I'm pleased for that as a big Google person. Claude 3 is the best one for programming, and they're all in the same equivalence class. The Chinese model, DeepSeek, is also in the same equivalence class. Grok 3, which has just come out of the Memphis data center with Elon, which is now part of the union of Twitter and XAI, is also in the same class. You think of those as language to language. Ask it a question. I was talking to somebody who was explaining to me that they use it for relationship advice, and another person told me that he used it for psychological advice. And I said, do you realize that it wasn't trained to be either a relationship coach or a psychiatrist? And in fact, it's probably illegal to say that you're a psychiatrist, because trust me, it didn't pass any of the tests and it hasn't been vetted. Well, nobody cares. The power of these models is extraordinary. And whenever I have a complicated question, I just ask one of those services. And they have differences, but they're roughly in the same.
This last part honestly blew my mind. Eric Schmidt is funding a project where AI literally designs new drug formulas overnight, and a robotic lab physically tests them while everyone sleeps. That's not science fiction. That's happening right now. The AI comes up with chemical ideas, the lab checks them, and it starts again the next day. If they really identify every druggable human target in 2 years, like he said, we could be looking at a world where diseases like cancer, or even stuff we consider incurable, finally get cured. And that's incredible. But I couldn't help thinking, we've all seen how this goes in the movies, right? Like, one day we're curing cancer, and the next, bam, zombie outbreak or some Spider-Man lizard situation. I mean, what if the AI decides it's more efficient to evolve us into something else? It sounds funny, but honestly, when machines are smarter than us and working on biology, who knows what they'll come up with? I love the idea of saving lives, but we need to be careful. Just because we can do something doesn't always mean we should, especially when it's happening this fast. So, what do you think? Are we heading toward a future where AI helps us cure diseases and live better lives? Or are we just a few experiments away from turning into zombies like in the movies? Seriously, I want to know. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video or it gave you something to think about, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We've got a lot more to talk about, while we still can.
I know you follow the space super closely. I'm talking to someone who knows the space well. But it was very obvious it's going to get there. And, there's still more work to do. But it's a good example where we always prioritized being ambitious and safety at the same time, right? And equally committed to both and pushed hard, and couldn't be more thrilled with how it's working, how much people love the experience. And this year has definitely, we've scaled up a lot, and we'll continue scaling up in 26.
That said, the competition is heating up. You've been friendly with Elon, even though technically he's a competitor, but you've been friendly with a lot of tech CEOs in that way, just showing respect towards them and so on. What do you think about the robotaxi efforts that Tesla is doing? Do you see it as competition? What do you think? Do you like the competition?
We are one of the earliest and biggest backers of SpaceX as Google, right? So, thrilled with what SpaceX is doing, and fortunate to be investors as a company there, right? And look, we don't compete with Tesla directly. We are not making cars, etc., right? We are building L4-5 autonomy. We're building a Waymo driver, which is general purpose and can be used in many settings. They're obviously working on making Tesla self-driving too. I've just assumed it's a de facto that Elon would succeed in whatever he does. So, that is not something I question. So, but I think we are so far from, these spaces are such vast spaces. Like I think about transportation, the opportunity space. The Waymo driver is a general purpose technology we can apply in many situations. So you have a vast green space. In all future scenarios, I see Tesla doing well and, Waymo doing well.
Like we mentioned with the Neolithic package, I think it's very possible that in the quote-unquote AI package, when the history is written, autonomous vehicles, self-driving cars is like the big thing that changes everything. Imagine over a period of a decade or two, just the complete transition from manually driven to autonomous in ways we might not predict. It might change the way we move about the world completely. So that, the possibility of that, and then the second and third order effects, as you're seeing now with Tesla, very possibly you would see some internally with Alphabet, maybe Waymo, maybe some of the Gemini robotics stuff. It might lead you into the other domains of robotics. Because we should remember that Waymo is a robot.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens to be on 4 wheels. So you said that the next big thing, we can also throw that into AI package. The big aha moment might be in the space of robotics. What do you think that would look like?
Demis and the Google DeepMind team is very focused on Gemini robotics, right? So we are definitely building the underlying models well. So we have a lot of investments there. And I think we are also pretty cutting edge in our research there. So we are definitely driving that direction. We obviously are thinking about applications in robotics. We'll kind of work seriously. We are partnering with a few companies today, but it's an area I would say stay tuned. We are yet to fully articulate our plans outside, but it's an area we are definitely committed to driving a lot of progress. But I think AI ends up driving that massive progress in robotics. The field has been held back for a while. I mean, the hardware has made extraordinary progress. The software had been the challenge, but with AI now and the generalized models we are building, we are building these models, getting them to work in the real world in a safe way, in a generalized way, is the frontier we're pushing pretty hard on.
I mean, we've been talking about. I think last time you were here, we talked about autonomous vehicles. And others, including Elon, have talked about them being on the roads a lot sooner than they are now.
I mean, Tesla's making amazing progress too. Look, I think, we are in 6 to 7 cities already by the end of this year. We've always it's an area where we have let safety and our metrics guide. Mm-hmm. But I think we are already in the process. May I just walk through the scaling up? I think in the US, by next year, we'll be in 10 cities robustly, right? And in 10 of the major markets. So I think we are making good progress.
And who do you think of as the biggest competition in that space?
I think, obviously, Tesla is the leader in the space. So I think it looks to me like, Tesla, Waymo, I would say those are the top 2.
In a world dominated by tech titans, there's one name that has been shaking things up in ways no one expected: Elon Musk. And when you hear Google CEO Sundar Pichai admitting that if Elon Musk's vision comes to fruition, he could own the entire market, you've got to wonder just how close we are to the future Musk has been promising. This is a race to a future that could change everything we know about technology, transportation, and artificial intelligence. At the heart of this debate, autonomous vehicles, robotics, and the emergence of AGI, artificial general intelligence. While we've all heard the claims about self-driving cars, the real question is, who's going to control the future of the transportation industry? Is it the slow and steady approach of companies like Waymo, backed by Google's vast resources? Or is it Elon Musk's lightning-fast drive to push Tesla's robo-taxi fleet into the mainstream before anyone else? In a conversation that might have caught many off guard, Sundar Pichai acknowledged something that many of us may have been too hesitant to admit. While Google's AI development with Waymo is making strides, they still don't have a monopoly on the autonomous future. What Pichai didn't say outright, but certainly implied, is that Tesla, if they pull off the robo-taxi revolution, could very well dominate the transportation market like no one else. Why does this matter? Well, consider this. If Musk succeeds in rolling out a fleet of fully autonomous robo-taxis, Tesla won't just be a car company anymore. It won't just be a technology company. It will be the backbone of the entire transportation infrastructure. Think about it. Each Tesla could become an income-generating asset, a piece of a massive digital transportation network. Suddenly, every car on the road becomes more than just a vehicle. It's a platform, a money-making machine that Musk is betting will dwarf even the largest rideshare companies out there. But this isn't just about self-driving cars. It's about the broader implications of what Elon's building. AGI, artificial general intelligence, isn't just some far-off dream anymore. The technology is advancing rapidly, and Musk believes we're closer than ever to achieving something truly groundbreaking. As Sundar Pichai himself acknowledged, we're at the edge of something huge. But while Google is cautiously preparing for AGI, Musk is already accelerating toward it, pushing his companies to lead the charge. The reality is, if Elon Musk succeeds in building an AI that powers not just vehicles but robots, factories, and even healthcare systems, the ripple effect could be seismic. This is about ownership over the very infrastructure that powers our daily lives. If Tesla can perfect its self-driving technology and scale it faster than anyone else, it could make Waymo, and every other competitor, obsolete. So, what does this mean for the future of tech and transportation? As we dive deeper into this conversation, one thing is clear. Elon Musk is betting everything on being first to market. And if he pulls it off, he won't just own a slice of the future, he'll own the entire market. Buckle up, because this race is about who defines the future, and Elon Musk seems determined to make sure that's him.
Look, we don't compete with Tesla directly. We are not making cars, etc., right? We are building L4-5 autonomy. We're building a Waymo driver, which is general purpose and can be used in many settings. They're obviously working on making Tesla self-driving too. I've just assumed it's a de facto that Elon would succeed in whatever he does. So, that is not something I question. So, but I think we are so far from these spaces are such vast spaces. I feel like we are in the AGI phase where dramatic progress, some things don't work well, but overall, you're seeing lots of progress.
I think on the AI front, we are close to what you might call AGI, or digital superintelligence. I think we are seeing an explosion in digital superintelligence here.
Google CEO Sundar Pichai just admitted that what Elon Musk is building with Tesla and AI could reshape the entire market around him. From robo-taxis to AGI, this isn't just competition. It's a race to the future. Let's break down what Sundar actually said, and why Elon might be much closer to winning than anyone thought.
That said, the competition is heating up. You've been friendly with Elon, even though technically he's a competitor, but you've been friendly with a lot of tech CEOs in that way, just showing respect towards them and so on. What do you think about the robotaxi efforts that Tesla is doing? Do you see it as competition? What do you think? Do you like the competition?
We are one of the earliest and biggest backers of SpaceX as Google. Right. So, thrilled with what SpaceX is doing and fortunate to be investors as a company there. Right. And look, we don't compete with Tesla directly. We are not making cars, etc. Right. We are building L4-5 autonomy. We're building a Waymo driver, which is general purpose and can be used in many settings. They're obviously working on making Tesla self-driving too. I've just assumed it's a de facto that Elon would succeed in whatever he does. So, that is not something I question. So, but I think we are so far from these spaces are such vast spaces. I think about transportation, the opportunity space. The Waymo driver is a general purpose technology we can apply in many situations. So you have a vast green space. In all future scenarios, I see Tesla doing well and, Waymo doing well.
Like we mentioned with the Neolithic package, I think it's very possible that in the quote-unquote AI package, when the history is written, autonomous vehicles, self-driving cars is the big thing that changes everything. Imagine over a period of a decade or two, just the complete transition from manually driven to autonomous in ways we might not predict. It might change the way we move about the world completely. So that, the possibility of that, and then the second and third order effects, as you're seeing now with Tesla, very possibly you would see some internally with Alphabet, maybe Waymo, maybe some of the Gemini robotics stuff. It might lead you into the other domains of robotics. Because we should remember that Waymo is a robot.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens to be on 4 wheels. So you said that the next big thing, we can also throw that into AI package. The big aha moment might be in the space of robotics. What do you think that would look like?
Demis and the Google DeepMind team is very focused on Gemini robotics, right? So we are definitely building the underlying models well. So we have a lot of investments there. And I think we are also pretty cutting edge in our research there. So we are definitely driving that direction. We obviously are thinking about applications in robotics. We'll kind of work seriously. We are partnering with a few companies today, but it's an area I would say stay tuned. We are yet to fully articulate our plans outside, but it's an area we are definitely committed to driving a lot of progress. But I think AI ends up driving that massive progress in robotics. The field has been held back for a while. I mean, the hardware has made extraordinary progress. The software had been the challenge, but with AI now and the generalized models we are building, we are building these models, getting them to work in the real world in a safe way, in a generalized way, is the frontier we're pushing pretty hard on.
Well, it's really nice to see that the models and the different teams integrated to where all of them are pushing towards one world model that's being built. So from all these different angles, multimodal, you're ultimately trying to get Gemini. So the same thing that would make AI mode really effective in answering your questions, which requires a kind of world model, is the same kind of thing that would help a robot be useful in the physical world. So everything's aligned.
That is what makes this moment so unique, because running a company, for the first time, you can do one investment in a very deep horizontal way. On top of it, you can drive multiple businesses forward, right? And that's effectively what we are doing in Google and Alphabet.
When Lex Fridman asked Sundar Pichai what he thought about Tesla's robotaxi efforts, I was expecting a bit of corporate dodging. But instead, Sundar gave a pretty honest and respectful answer. He didn't talk trash, didn't dismiss Tesla, and actually gave Elon Musk a huge vote of confidence. He said, flat out, he assumes Elon will succeed at whatever he does. That's a pretty strong statement, especially coming from the CEO of Google. Now, technically, Tesla and Google don't compete head-to-head. Google isn't making cars, they're not building a Tesla killer in the traditional sense. But through Waymo, they're building something arguably just as ambitious: a general-purpose AI driver. They want to create a brain that can drive any vehicle in any setting, not just a Tesla, but delivery vans, taxis, trucks, and maybe even robots down the road. Sundar framed it as a massive opportunity. He said the entire transportation space is so big that both Tesla and Waymo can win. And honestly, that's probably true right now. But here's where it gets real. If Elon actually pulls this off and Tesla's robotaxis go mainstream, the balance of power could shift fast. Let's look at the facts. Tesla announced it's launching its robotaxi service in Austin on June 22nd. Elon says this will be the future of Tesla, and he's gone as far as to predict that Tesla will end up with 99% market share. That sounds insane, but that's Elon. He talks in extremes, and sometimes he gets there. But right now, there are real robotaxis on the road, and none of them are Teslas. Waymo is already operating in 4 major US cities. They're giving 250,000 paid rides a week. Their fleet has done over 10 million rides, and they just partnered with Uber in Austin and plan to expand to Atlanta. That's not a test, that's not a concept. That's real, revenue-generating service. Tesla, on the other hand, hasn't put a single robotaxi on the road yet. Their full self-driving system still isn't fully autonomous. And unlike Waymo, Tesla doesn't use LiDAR, which is widely seen by experts as a safer way to detect people and obstacles. Elon's been vocal, even mocking, about it. He says people don't shoot lasers out of their eyes, so cars shouldn't either. But the truth is, LiDAR adds an extra layer of safety. especially in bad visibility. And the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has already launched several investigations into Tesla's FSD, including a fatal crash involving a pedestrian. So when people say Tesla is ahead, it depends on how you define ahead. If we're talking hype, Elon has it. If we're talking actual robo-taxis giving people rides today, Waymo is leading. But here's where things get interesting. Cost. Waymo's system is expensive. Their cars are loaded with sensors and hardware. Tesla's approach, using only cameras and software, is cheaper. If Tesla can get that to work safely, they could scale way faster than anyone else. And this is what makes Sundar's comments so powerful. He's basically saying, we're not underestimating Elon. They've invested in SpaceX. They know what he's capable of, and they're treating Tesla not as a direct rival, but as part of the same massive shift that's reshaping transportation, robotics, and AI all at once. That's the bigger picture. Sundar mentioned something important. That Waymo is a robot on wheels. It's not just about driving. It's part of a larger robotics push inside Google, with Gemini powering the brains behind not only cars, but potentially humanoid robots in the future. If you zoom out, both Tesla and Google are building the same thing, a general intelligence that can navigate the real world. One just happens to be doing it from inside a car, and the other is doing it across multiple domains. If Tesla nails robotaxis, it's not just a new product, it's a platform. Suddenly, every Tesla becomes an income-generating asset. Owners could rent their cars out. Tesla would collect a cut. That could completely flip the auto industry and give Tesla a serious advantage not just over car makers, but over Uber, Lyft, and maybe even over Google, if Waymo can't scale fast enough. At the same time, it's clear Sundar and the Google team aren't just sitting still. They're investing heavily in AI, robotics, and world models. And they've got the money to wait this out. Alphabet made $100 billion in profit last year. Waymo's $4.1 billion in losses barely registers on their balance sheet. Compare that to Tesla, which made $7 billion. But that number is down 53% from the year before. So financially, Google has more room to take risks. In the end, this isn't a fight between two companies. It's a race to reshape the world. Autonomous cars aren't just cool tech. They could redefine how cities are built, how people commute, how goods move, and how we interact with machines. Sundar's basically saying, buckle up. This is going to be bigger than anyone realizes. And I agree. If Tesla does launch a real working robotaxi fleet that's cheaper and safer than anything else, they won't just own the EV market. They could take a massive piece of the entire transportation industry. But the path is narrow. Tesla needs to win on cost, safety, scale, and regulation, all at once. And even though Elon says things like 99% market share, the truth is, this market will probably be shared by whoever survives the long haul, not just whoever gets there first.
So lots of folks are talking about timelines for AGI or ASI, artificial superintelligence. So AGI, loosely defined, is basically human expert level at a lot of the main fields of pursuit for humans. And ASI is what AGI becomes, presumably quickly, by being able to self-improve. So becoming far superior in intelligence across all these disciplines than humans. When do you think we'll have AGI? Is 2030 a possibility?
There's one other term we should throw in there. I don't know who used it first. Maybe Karpati did. AJI. Have you heard AJI? The artificial jagged intelligence. Sometimes feels that way, right? Both there are progress and you see what they can do, and then like you can trivially find they make numerical errors or counting R's in strawberry or something, which seems to trip up most models or whatever it is, right? So maybe we should throw that term in there. I feel like we are in the AJI phase where dramatic progress, some things don't work well, but overall, you're seeing lots of progress. But if your question is, will it happen by 2030? Look, we constantly move the line of what it means to be AGI. There are moments today, like sitting in a Waymo in a San Francisco street with all the crowds and the people and kind of work its way through. I see glimpses of it there. The car is sometimes kind of impatient. trying to work its way using Astra, like in Gemini Live, or seeing, asking questions about the world.
What's this skinny building doing in my neighborhood?
It's a street light, not a building.
You see glimpses. That's why I use the word Age AI, because then you see stuff which obviously, we are far from Age AI too. So you have both experiences simultaneously happening to you. I'll answer your question, but I'll also throw out this. I almost feel the term doesn't matter. What I know is by 2030, there'll be such dramatic progress. We'll be dealing with the consequences of that progress, both the positives, both the positive externalities and the negative externalities that come with it in a big way by 2030. So that I strongly feel, right? Whatever we may be arguing about the term, or maybe Gemini can answer what that moment is in time in 2030. But I think the progress will be dramatic, right? So that I believe in. Will the AI think it has reached AGI by 2030? I would say we will just fall short of that timeline, right? So I think it'll take a bit longer. It's amazing. In the early days of Google DeepMind in 2010, they talked about a 20-year time frame to achieve AGI, so which is kind of fascinating to see. But for me, the whole thing, seeing what Google Brain did in 2012, and when we acquired DeepMind in 2014, right close to where we are sitting in 2012, Jeff Dean showed the image of when the neural networks could recognize a picture of a cat, right, and identify it. This is the early versions of Brain, right? And so, we all talked about couple decades. I don't think we'll quite get there by 2030. So my sense is it's slightly after that. But I would stress it doesn't matter like what that definition is, because you will have mind-blowing progress on many dimensions. Maybe AI can create videos. We have to figure out as a society, how do we need some system by which we all agree that this is AI generated and we have to disclose it in a certain way, because how do you distinguish reality otherwise?
Yeah, there's so many interesting things you said. So first of all, just looking back at this recent, now feels like distant history with Google Brain. I mean, that was before TensorFlow was made public and open sourced. So the tooling matters too, combined with GitHub ability to share code. Then you have the ideas of attention transformers and the diffusion now. And then there might be a new idea that seems simple in retrospect, but will change everything. And that could be the post-training, the inference time innovations. And I think Shad Cian tweeted that Google is just one great UI from completely winning the AI race. Meaning like UI is a huge part of it. Like how that intelligence, I think Logan Kirkpatrick likes to talk about this right now. It's an LLM, but when is it going to become a system where you're talking about shipping systems versus shipping the particular model? Yeah, that matters too. How the system is manifests itself and how it presents itself to the world. That really, really matters.
Oh, hugely so. There are simple UI innovations which have changed the world, right? And I absolutely think so. We will see a lot more progress in the next couple of years. I think AI itself on a self-improving track for UI itself. Like, today we are like constraining the models. The models can't quite express themselves in terms of the UI to people. But that is if you think about it, we've kind of boxed them in that way. But given these models can code, they should be able to write the best interfaces to express their ideas over time, right?
That is an incredible idea. So their APIs are already open. So you create a really nice agentic system that continuously improves the way you can be talking to an AI.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is the interface. And then, of course, the incredible multimodal aspect of the interface that Google's been pushing.
These models are natively multimodal. They can easily take content from any format, put it in any format. They can write a good user interface. They probably understand your preferences better over time. And so all this is like the evolution ahead, right? And so that goes back to where we started the conversation. I think there'll be dramatic evolutions in the years ahead.
Maybe one more kitchen question. This even further ridiculous concept of P-Doom. So the philosophically minded folks in the AI community think about the probability that AGI and then ASI might destroy all of human civilization. I would say my P-doom is about 10%. Do you ever think about this kind of long-term threat of ASI?
Well, every year has been somewhat pivotal, and this one's no different. In terms of interesting things that hopefully are accomplished this year, getting Starship to be fully reusable, so that we catch both the booster and the ship, which would be the first fully reusable orbital rocket ever in history, would be a profound breakthrough, as the essential breakthrough necessarily to make life multiplanetary and ultimately become a spacefaring civilization. We've got Neuralink, which has now helped 5 patients restore capability using the telepathy implant, where they're able to control a computer simply by thinking. We'll be doing our first patient to restore sight with our blind sight implant, which is either end of this year or early next. In fact, that first patient might be in UAE, since we have a relationship with UAE and the Cleveland Clinic there. I think on the AI front, we are close to what you might call AGI, or digital superintelligence. I think we are seeing an explosion in digital superintelligence here. And then we've got at Tesla, we'll be launching unsupervised autonomy, basically self-driving cars with no one in them, in Austin next month. So it's a big year for sure. Many other things in the works too.
Sundar Pichai had a lot to say when Lex Fridman brought up AGI, artificial general intelligence. And honestly, it was a thoughtful, realistic take. He acknowledged how far things have come, but also reminded us how far we still have to go. He even joked about AGI, artificial jagged intelligence, a funny but honest term to describe where we are today. Moments of brilliance from these AI models followed by really dumb mistakes, like failing to count letters in the word strawberry. It's true. We're in this weird phase where AI can write essays, solve math problems, and drive cars in downtown San Francisco, and yet sometimes it can't answer a basic question without tripping over itself. So when Sundar says we'll see mind-blowing progress by 2030, but that true AGI might come a little after that. I get it. It's a cautious optimism. He's been in this space long enough to know it's not just about raw capability, it's also about alignment, safety, hardware, ethics, and scale. He's talking about society needing tools to handle fake AI-generated videos. He's thinking long-term, big picture, responsible deployment. But then, we hear from Elon Musk, and he's on the other side of that optimism scale. To him, we're basically already there. At the Qatar Economic Forum, Elon flat out said we're close to AGI, or as he calls it, digital superintelligence. That's not just hype. It's his belief that the explosion in AI we're seeing right now is the real deal. He's got multiple projects pushing the boundaries all at once. Neuralink implants helping people control computers with their thoughts, a SpaceX Starship that might soon become the first fully reusable orbital rocket, and Tesla's unsupervised robo-taxi fleet about to hit the streets of Austin. From his point of view, this is the year everything changes. Not 2030, not 5 years from now. Now. That's the Elon difference. He's always working in fast forward. Whether or not he's right is still up for debate, but what's clear is he's pushing the envelope on every front. And this is where the contrast gets fascinating. Sundar is saying, we're close, but we still have time to prepare and shape this. Elon is saying, it's already here, buckle up. If Elon is even halfway right, he's about to leapfrog everyone. And I mean everyone, because AGI isn't just a fancy AI milestone. It's the gateway to everything: self-driving cars, humanoid robots, real-time language processing, robotics, diagnostics, autonomous factories, you name it. If Tesla's cars go fully autonomous without supervision, and if they beat Waymo, which has spent billions just to get to 4 cities, then Tesla becomes more than a car company. it becomes the infrastructure of transportation. Every car turns into a software platform. And if those cars are powered by an AGI that learns, adapts, and improves across millions of miles, Elon will own the market, not just EVs, not just robotaxis, the whole damn transportation economy. Meanwhile, Sundar's Alphabet, for all its brilliance, is still explaining AI's limits and building slowly. You can respect that. In fact, we need companies like Google to take a responsible, measured approach. But in the real world, whoever delivers first usually wins. And Elon is betting everything that he's first. So here's where I land. Sundar Pichai is wise to be careful. But if Elon's right and AGI gets locked into Tesla's ecosystem before anyone else figures it out, then we're not just talking about one company taking over a market. We're talking about a full-on shift in power across tech, transportation, labor, energy, even healthcare. Because AGI isn't going to be limited to answering your questions in a chatbot. It's going to run vehicles, manage factories, control satellites, diagnose patients, and do it all without ever needing a break. That's why this moment matters. If Elon's version of AGI hits first and scales faster, then yeah, he won't just own the market, he'll own the future. What do you think? Is Elon really about to take over the market with AGI and robotaxis? Or is Sundar right that we're still a few steps away? I'd love to hear your take in the comments.
So we got the first starships on Mars, gather critical data. The first flights there we'll send with the Optimus robot. So we can go out there and explore and kind of prepare the way for humans. And that'll be a very cool image if we're able to achieve it by launching end of next year. It would actually technically arrive in 2027, but that would be an epic picture to see Optimus walking around on the surface of Mars. This is like an incredible thing to have, like this amazing city on Mars, the first city on another planet, and a new world.
Elon Musk's AI predictions are totally out of this world, literally. While OpenAI is working on ChatGPT-5 and Google's showing off their new AI glasses and smart wearables, Elon is talking about something entirely different. He's talking about Mars, AI-powered rockets, humanoid robots exploring another planet, satellites run by artificial intelligence connecting Earth to Mars in real time. The truth is, the real alien here might actually be Elon Musk. Don't believe it? Watch this.
So we're looking at different locations. The lead candidate right now is the Arcadia region. Mars has a lot of real estate, but when you combine all of the factors and say, okay, we can't be too close to the poles, we need to be near ice, water, and can't be too mountainous for the rockets, then it narrows down to a smaller region. So Arcadia is, it's one of my daughter's name is Arcadia actually, and is one of the options. So we got the first starships on Mars, gather critical data. So the first flights there we'll send with the Optimus robot, so we can go out there and explore and kind of prepare the way for humans. And that'll be a very cool image if we're able to achieve it by launching end of next year. It would actually technically arrive in 2027, but that would be an epic picture to see Optimus walking around on the surface of Mars. And then with the launching 2 years later, we'd be sending humans. Assuming the first missions are successful and they land successfully, we'd send humans on the next mission, and we'd really start building the infrastructure for Mars. So anyway, maybe just to be safe, we might just do two landing episodes with the Optimus and do the third one with humans. We'll see. So that classic picture of the workers on the Empire State. And then for communications on Mars, we'll be using a version of Starlink to provide internet on Mars. Yeah, so the speed of light, even at moving at the speed of light, your best case scenario is, I guess, running around 3.5 minutes to Mars, and then worst case is 22 minutes or more because Mars is on the other side of the sun from Earth. So anyway, it's quite challenging to do high bandwidth communications with Mars, but Starlink will achieve that. Yeah, and then we'll have the first humans lay the groundwork for permanent presence on the surface. And yeah, the goal, like I said, will be to make Mars self-sustaining as quickly as possible. So it's just a sort of rough idea of what things will be like with the first city on Mars. My guess is we'll probably put the launch pads a little further away, or the landing pads, just in case. But for Mars, we're going to need a lot of solar power. You can't really walk around on the surface of Mars, at least as yet, until Mars is terraformed to be like Earth. You need to walk around with a Mars suit and be initially in kind of like glass domes. But it would work, and eventually we can make Mars into an Earth-like planet. And we want to get to the point where we're transferring over 1 million tons at every Mars transfer window. And then that's like a serious civilization. A megaton per transfer window.
Elon Musk just made it official. The first explorer to walk the surface of Mars won't be a human. It'll be Optimus, the humanoid AI robot Tesla's been developing behind the scenes. According to Musk, SpaceX's massive Starship rocket will carry the Optimus robots to Mars as early as 2026, with the mission aimed at preparing the Martian environment before humans ever set foot there. He even posted about it directly on X, formerly Twitter, marking the first time he publicly connected Tesla's humanoid robot to an actual Mars mission. This isn't speculation anymore, it's part of the plan. And Musk already has a destination picked out. A region on Mars called Arcadia. It's not just any spot, it was chosen strategically. The area has the right elevation, it's near access to ice water, and it's relatively flat, which makes it ideal for landing rockets. It's also symbolic. Elon named his daughter Arcadia. So yeah, this one's personal. Now, I know how this sounds, like science fiction. But this is real. The plan is to send fully uncrewed starships loaded with AI robots to scout terrain, gather scientific data, and even begin testing infrastructure before human arrival. No astronauts, no flag planting ceremony. Just a robot silently walking out onto the surface of Mars. The first life form to do it. That's the first footprint on Mars, and it won't belong to us. It'll belong to a machine. And let's be clear, this isn't just Elon dreaming out loud. He's serious about this. He said that if everything goes to plan, the first Starship carrying Optimus could launch by the end of next year, with actual arrival on Mars sometime in 2027. That's less than 2 years away. Let that sink in. In under 24 months, we could be watching footage of a humanoid AI robot walking across an alien planet. And Elon, being Elon, he's already thinking ahead. He's considering sending multiple Optimus missions before any humans go, just to be cautious. And honestly, that's brilliant. Send the robots first. Let them take the risk. If something fails, we reset and improve. We don't mourn. We iterate. It's the kind of calculated risk that actually increases the odds of long-term success. And here's what really hits me. If that moment actually happens, if the world sees a Tesla-built robot walking around on Mars, captured live on camera, it will be one of the most powerful images of the century. Not because of how futuristic it looks, but because of what it means. It signals a turning point, that for the first time, AI has become the ambassador of Earth. That humanity trusted a machine to take the first step toward colonizing another world. That's not just history, that's legacy. Now that we've got the robot on Mars, how are we going to talk to it? Let's watch what Elon said next.
And we really start building the infrastructure for Mars. So anyway, maybe just to be safe, we might just do two landing episodes with the Optimus and do the third one with humans. We'll see. So that classic picture of the workers on the Empire State. And then for communications on Mars, we'll be using a version of Starlink to provide internet on Mars. Yeah, so the speed of light, even at moving at the speed of light, Your best case scenario is, I guess, running around 3.5 minutes to Mars, and then worst case is 22 minutes or more because Mars is on the other side of the sun from Earth. So anyway, it's quite challenging to do high bandwidth communications with Mars, but Starlink will achieve that. Yeah, and then we'll have the first humans lay the groundwork for permanent presence on the surface. And yeah, the goal, like I said, will be to make Mars self-sustaining as quickly as possible. So it's just a sort of rough idea of what things will be like with the first city on Mars. My guess is we'll probably put the launch pads a little further away, or the landing pads, just in case. But for Mars, we're going to need a lot of solar power. You can't really walk around on the surface of Mars, at least as yet, until Mars is terraformed to be like Earth. You need to walk around with a Mars suit and be initially in kind of like glass domes. But it would work, and eventually we can make Mars into an Earth-like planet. And we want to get to the point where we're transferring over 1 million tons at every Mars transfer window. And then that's like a serious civilization. 1 megaton per transfer window. So, yeah, I have a lot of spaceports. I mean, because of the fact that you can't fly there continuously and you have to transfer in these windows, you'd have a gathering of 1,000 ships, or 2,000 ships, or more than that. So we have this kind of like Battlestar Galactica feel where all these ships are in orbit waiting to depart. I look at, I think, an amazing image of all these ships departing at once. And then you're going to need, obviously, a lot of launch pads, a lot of landing pads on Mars. Or you'll need to move the ships off the landing pad pretty fast. If you've got a few thousand ships inbound, probably need at least a few hundred landing pads. Anyway, we'll solve that problem later. So, yeah, this is like an incredible thing to have, like this amazing city on Mars, the first city on another planet, a new world. And it's also an opportunity to, I think, for the Martians to rethink how they want civilization to be. So you can maybe rethink, like, what kind of form of government do you want? What new rules do you want to have? There's a lot of freedom and opportunity in Mars to do a recompile on civilization, which will be up to the Martians. So, all right.
So now that we've got Optimus heading to Mars, there's a major question left to answer. How are we going to stay in contact? Elon's answer? Starlink. But not the same Starlink that's bringing high-speed internet to remote areas of Earth. He's talking about a completely upgraded, AI-enhanced version of Starlink that can handle deep space communication between Earth and Mars. Robots walking on Mars, satellites bridging planets, rockets flying themselves. The future isn't coming, it's already lifting off. What do you think? Will AI be humanity's greatest tool or our biggest gamble? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like and subscribe for more deep dives into the future of tech.
A lot of the things you said have all happened, and it's because you've been a believer in Elon Musk.
He believes that digitization and autonomy is going to be driving the future, and he thinks we're on the verge of having an era of incredible abundance. So he's setting it up for that. And then in addition to that, what he believes is that in order for the planet Earth to survive, that America has to be militarily strong. And the only way you can be militarily strong is you can't be financially weak. So what he's trying to do is set it up so that you'll be financially strong, and then you can be militarily strong, and that's going to protect the planet, he believes. And I agree with that.
Tesla just dropped 15% in a single day. That kind of move rattles investors, especially when the stock is already down more than 50% from its peak. On the surface, it looks like trouble. But Ron Barron doesn't see trouble. He sees timing. He's been one of Tesla's earliest and biggest supporters. He's made billions from those decisions. And even now, after all that growth, he believes Tesla has barely scratched the surface. While most people are watching price charts, he's watching what the company is building. This goes way beyond electric vehicles. Barron sees Tesla shifting towards something much larger, a transportation platform built on full autonomy. He's talking about a future where Tesla keeps the cars instead of selling them. A fleet of self-driving vehicles owned by the company, generating income every day, year-round. He breaks it down simply. Each car could bring in $30,000 to $50,000 a year in revenue. 1 million cars doing that creates $30 to $50 billion in annual profit. Not potential, profit. That completely changes how Tesla's value should be calculated. And this isn't speculation. Tesla already has the software in place. The factories are running. The tech is improving. The gap between Tesla and everyone else in terms of scale and efficiency keeps getting wider. Barron believes the company is entering a new phase, where traditional metrics don't capture what's really happening. He also makes a point that most analysts ignore. He sees current market volatility as part of a broader reset. Government policies, inflation control, election cycles, they're all affecting sentiment. But they don't change Tesla's ability to execute. They don't slow down the roadmap. They don't erase the billions Tesla could make from energy, AI, or mobility. For Ron Barron, the path forward is clear. Tesla isn't reacting to the market. It's building the next version of it. A version where vehicles don't just move people, they power an entirely new stream of income. And in his view, that shift has already started. Let's break down why this matters, and why Barron thinks now is the time to pay attention.
These two investments represent about 15% of our assets, about 10% for Tesla, 5% for SpaceX. I watched this with puzzlement, everything that's happening, but I think that one element that is going to be important for Elon is that he will be able to, he understands where there's unusual spending that's much greater than it should be, and how that can be corrected. Pretty easy, actually. You have a lot of cost-plus contracts, so they can be changed to the way contracts work for SpaceX, where they take the risk instead of the government. So cost-plus contracts are anathema to operating.
I'm sorry, what was that?
What's the word? They're a bad thing. Cost-plus contracts don't work very well for the person who's contracting. Is that you agree to do services for the government, they give you a price, and then you go out there and find a lot of subcontractors to do this work for you. The subcontractors, the longer they take and the more they cost, the better it is for you, because you're getting 12% off the top as pure profit. Just as a prime contractor, you want things to cost more. So for example, the government was sending a program, they want to send people back and forth to the ISS, International Space Station, so they give two contracts, I guess about 10 years ago. One to Boeing for $4.3 billion, a year later to SpaceX for $2.1 billion. And SpaceX has since been back and forth 40 times. Boeing got there once and they couldn't get their guys back.
Right.
So we had to go rescue them. And that contract now has cost $18 billion. It's going to cost $98 billion or $88 billion. It's supposed to cost 11. And therefore, they benefit by something taking longer and costing more. SpaceX, if something goes wrong on a Friday afternoon, at 4:30, people don't go home till it's fixed. The other places, 4:30, let's get out of here, and they don't care because it's the government's money, not theirs. You got to launch regularly in your sites regularly, like a lot of times every day. And if you have to go get permits every time you launch, airplanes don't have to get permits every time they launch, every time they take off. If you have to do that, that really slows you down. You can't do it. So basically, there has to be change in regulations also. So there have to be more reasonable regulations than are in place right now, and you have to have different, this cost-plus contract stuff has to go. I think that he had similar views to mine. I don't feel like I'm a Democrat anymore, but he had similar views to mine, and for a long time. But I think that the Democratic Party has been taken over by by unions, teachers unions, UAW. I mean, one of the things that was really interesting is that they had an EV summit at the White House. Everyone's been talking about this a year or two ago, and in that period, they had the leading people for electric cars were invited to the White House to meet with President Biden, and Musk was invited initially and then disinvited. And the person who was praised for leading the way and in conversion was Mary Barra. I love Mary Barra, but Mary Barra in that quarter did 29 cars, 29 electric cars. We did 300,000, and she was the one who was invited, and she was the one who was praised as the leader in this conversion from gasoline cars to electric cars. So that's because the UAW said, I don't want Elon Musk in the White House. And so it's a lot of these interested parties that say that, no, it doesn't work for me to have someone who's non-union. The reason UAW has been unsuccessful unionizing Tesla's plants is because the people in Tesla's plants are becoming wealthy because they're shareholders in Tesla stock. Same thing for SpaceX. So you can't unionize people if they're doing great where they are. Last year there were 5.8 million people. 5.8 million people applied for jobs at Tesla and SpaceX for 30,000 jobs. 5.8 million people for 30,000 jobs. Tesla might have 150,000 people and SpaceX probably 15,000, but they had 5.8 million. They get the best people. To get the best people who do the best, and how do you take people like that and make them into a union where they're just taking something off the top and it's a job that's not that interesting? A lot of policies that they have I don't agree with. The inclusion policies. I think that if someone is really talented and work really hard, they should get the benefit from that. And the policies of Democrats, if someone's not doing well, they want to say, okay, we'll lift you up. I'm fine about giving people opportunity. I'm not fine about taking something from someone who's worked really hard to achieve what they have and taking it from them and giving it to someone else. This is an advisory role, so I don't think, right now he's doing a lot of advising. I don't know how active he is in choosing the people who are being placed in these roles, but he was supposed to come. We had a funny bit planned. I was telling you about this before. We were initially going to do a Saturday Night Live open.
Here at the Barron Investment Conference today.
Yeah. And then I told him about this. He said, well, why don't we do 30 minutes about talking about the future instead? I said, okay, great. And then they called yesterday and said he can't do it. He's in Mar-a-Lago. Can't arrange it. Can't leave. Can't come in. Can't get people in SpaceX told me that he doesn't miss any meetings. So he comes to these meetings. Same thing with Tesla. I don't understand how he's able to do all this.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's enough hours in the day.
No, it's amazing what he does. And he lives on airplanes and flies around all over. I don't see how anyone can compete with him the way he works. But I think that, so he says, well, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. He's 53, I guess.
I'm sorry, he says what?
He says, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. He's 53. I'm 81. So he's 53 and he flies all over. And so he, it takes a toll on his body. But boy, he is sharp. He can talk about everything, anything, like William the Great, the Conqueror, just everything. He's so well read. And I guess he must have a photographic memory. He remembers everything. Stock price is the same as it was 3 years ago. So it was higher 3 years ago than it is today, actually. And the way I think about Tesla is I think that Mazar cost, I met him in 2010. It took 4 years before I became convinced to invest in him. He said, what took you so long? And we invested $400 million between 2014 and 2016.
Just in Tesla, or is that everything? Just in Tesla.
$400 million in Tesla, 14 to 16, and we made about $6 billion in profit so far. And we sold a quarter of our stock in 2020. Yeah. 3 years ago, 2021, after it had gone up 20 times. And
there were people who questioned you at the time why you were selling 25%. I think you told us that it was because it had gotten to be such a big part of the portfolio.
Yeah, it was too big. It was 20 and up 20 times. And the idea that I wanted to have is I didn't want people to think that I had died, and that's why they still own the stock. So I want to submit. And by the way, 2014 to 2016, when we invested that $400 million, the stock was acting like a yo-yo.
Yeah.
And for the past 3 years, the stock has also been a yo-yo performing stock because what they're doing is that they're reinvesting in their business. They're penalizing current profitability to become a much bigger business in the future. And whenever that happens, so the reason we've outperformed, so I was telling you before, 97% of our assets do better than the indexes, 94, 95%, top 20%. We had $100 million under management in 1992, 10 million in 1982. Now it's 45 billion, but we've made 49 billion in profits. So we've paid people over the past 30 years $4 billion more than we made them, more than they've given us, but we now have 45 billion. I'm hoping that in the next 10 years we can quadruple our assets. So I think that it's right now worth $1 trillion. And what's Bitcoin? $1.7 trillion? So would I rather have 2 Teslas or 1 Bitcoin? So basically, the way I think about it is that Tesla, I think, is going to be worth $3 or $4 trillion, $5 trillion in 10 years, based upon the business plan that I'm aware of. And then Elon believes that longer term, it's going to be worth 30 trillion. It's now being worth $1 trillion.
Do you believe that?
Well, the people from Goldman Sachs were doing something for me. One of the executives in California who's being groomed, I think, to be the next CEO of Goldman Sachs, he and 3 other people from Goldman came to visit me this past summer at my house in East Hampton. And they were telling me, his name is Dan Dees, they were telling me that Elon, Goldman and them was struggling to get their business value from 150 billion in the market to 180 billion. So Elon said, why don't you come to my plant in Palo Alto where I have Optimus robots? I want you to see what that is. So he says, so we go there, I take the board and we go out. He says, Ron, it's dystopian. It's amazing. You got to go see this. So I went to see it. And there's robots walking all over. And the idea that he has is that, so here we have, there wouldn't be any EVs without him. There wouldn't be any autonomous driving without him. There wouldn't be any rockets you use over and over without him. You wouldn't have any Starlink without him. So the idea is that this Optimus robots, he thinks is going to be his biggest business ever. And he thinks that, he says everyone's going to have robots. And my big question was when I was watching these things walking around and how intelligent they're becoming, super intelligent, I said, well, can they procreate? That's the question I have. And how is that going to happen? So I met him in 2010. And it took me 4 years before we began to invest. In 2014 to 2016 is when we bought the stock. We made about 20 times on our investment there. And then in SpaceX, we've been investing in that since 2017. And we're one of the largest investors in SpaceX.
It's not a publicly traded company, but what about your valuation?
We have about $1.7 billion invested right now. It cost us $700 million, $400 million of that is me. On Tesla, we have 17.5 million shares, 4.5 million shares is me. So we've been an investor for a long time, so I obviously believe. Mm-hmm. And initially when we invested, it was making me crazy when I was seeing some of the things that he was doing, as much as I admired him. But I do think that, and I calmed myself down, and I said, I really deserve to make a lot of money by investing in this and by staying with it. And we deserve. And what I thought was that, the point that Walter made yesterday was that untethered, these things can happen, and if he was conventional, it would have never happened. So he's the guy who got us electric cars, he's the guy who got us to space. If he was a conventional person, then he was in Saturday Night Live, and they said, hey dude, do you think I'm a normal person? I got you electric cars, and I'm going to take you to Mars. Seriously, am I going to be normal? And he's a very funny, engaging, smart, incredibly hardworking person. And I never remember. So one story. When I went to a dinner in East Hampton about 2-3 weeks ago, when David Rubenstein was interviewing Walter, and they sat me at the table with Walter right next to the stage, and then David interviewed him, and then they mentioned me 3 or 4 times in that, and then afterwards he said, Ron, the guy knows more than anyone else here about him. Why don't you say something? And I said, I can't say something. This is your show, and I'm not part of that. And
but you're here now, so what would you say?
Well, one fast story is, I agree with Walter, he has to be, untethered. And then in addition to that, when he was a child, he talked about all the problems he had with his dad, and he escaped from those. He would go home and he would read the encyclopedia. Read the encyclopedia. That was his nickname from his mom, encyclopedia. And any question he knew it. So he had a photographic memory. And what amazes me about him now is every time you ask him, how do you do that? How do you know that? How do you know what these things cost? He knows everything. It's a photographic memory. He remembers stuff. And so he's focused on cost, trying to drive cost out of everything. Everyone else tries to make as much money as they can. He's focused on his mission, long term, which is to make planet habitable, and then also to, if something bad happens, to be able to keep humanity alive. To touch on Tesla for a second, we're an investor in SpaceX also. And they just sent a Tesla car around the sun, just past the sun. I was reading the paper the other day. Just went around the sun. That's pretty cool. So there's all these things that are happening in the world that are, they're providing growth. I mean, Elon Musk was talking about how they want to set off nuclear weapons and nuclear bombs in Mars to create an atmosphere. So, with Tesla, there are many investments that we've made where it's been a very long incubation period that we have made, which is taken for the investment to prove out. When we invested in Vail between 1996 and 2006, we made a very modest return, 50, 60, 70% over 10 years, and then we made 7 or 8 times our money. When we invested in Wynn Resorts for 2001, we were one of the founding investors, and Steve Wynn invested $250 million, and a Japanese investor invested $250, and he told me that there will never be another investor in our company except for you if you want to invest, and I'd like to have you as an investor. And so we invested after we studied the land that he owned and what he was planning to do. We invested $25 million. That was at $20 a share. And then when he ultimately went public, he couldn't get 12 people to sit in a room with him, and he went public at $15 or $16 a share or $13 a share, and we invested another $25 million. No, maybe we invested $50 million at 20, and then 20, and then when it came public at 13, invested $7 or $8 million, 7 or 8 million shares, and ultimately the stock went to 150. And so it was down after we invested. It was down 2 or 3 years later, and then people would say, I don't want to invest because it's not going to be a casino for 5 or 6 or 7 years. We invested during that period. We invest all the time when businesses are growing. When Tesla's case, Tesla, when we invested in 2014, the revenues were less than $3 billion a year, $2.7 billion. This year, the revenues are going to be about $27 billion. So the company has grown 10 times in revenues since the beginning. Then they were sort of struggling and producing cars. And next year, I think they're going to do $35 or $40 billion of revenues. And I think in 2 more years, they're going to do $100 billion. That's because we haven't sold any stock, and that's because the shares in Tesla got us. So we talked about investing at $220 or $218. It went up to $380, and now it's back to $220, $225 with some self-inflicted wounds. Elon thinks we're going to make 30 times in Tesla. I think we're going to make, from where it was $1.1 trillion, I was thinking we would make 4 times over the next 10 years. I think we're going to make more than that now from these prices.
Tesla's stock has been tumbling, but that's not the full story. While everyone focuses on the short-term volatility, Ron Barron sees a golden opportunity that others are missing. Tesla is building an empire on the future of autonomous driving, and this is a game changer. With robo-taxis on the horizon and a business model set to revolutionize transportation, Tesla's plan is about to redefine the market. So what's really happening behind the scenes? And why is this move set to crush the competition and transform the industry forever?
Tesla is coming off its worst trading day since 2020, falling 15% in yesterday's session. That stock is down now more than 50% from its all-time high that was reached in December. Still, if you're looking for the last year, it's up 25%, so it has been a pretty volatile stock. Joining us right now is longtime Tesla bull Ron Barron. He is Barron Capital's chairman and CEO. He's been, again, a longtime investor, not just in Tesla, Tesla, but in many other Elon Musk companies. And Ron, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Let me ask you very quickly right now how you're feeling about the overall markets. You're a value investor. When stocks prices come down, sometimes value investors get pretty excited. How do you feel about things?
Well, it makes people very unsettled right now, all the things that are happening so quickly. I think they're intentional. I think that the government, you got Musk, incredibly consequential person, advising the president. And I think that all the things they say that make the market go up or down, you shouldn't think that those are by miscommunication or error. They're all intentional.
Not intentional to drive the stock market down, to get to a different place for the economy.
Well, everything. Yeah. I think they might even be intentional to try to slow down the economy, get rid of inflation. First-term president, the first thing you do is try to do things that are going to be unattractive to your constituents. If you're running for election, but you do it now, get it out of the way, and then a year and a half from now, then things will look better. A year from now, things will look better. But stock prices, I've been saying for a little while now, I can't believe how cheap they are. Those are the things that we look at.
So you're on a buying spree right now?
I didn't say I was in a buying spree. I just said I can't believe how cheap things. I own a lot of things. I'm a long-term investor. It's interesting. I listened to your analyst this morning on television, and you were talking to him about Tesla.
Gene Munster.
Gene Munster. Mm-hmm. And you were asking him, great shirts he has all the time, I guess, but you were asking him about, what he thought about Tesla. And he said, well, for a 4-week horizon?
Yeah.
A 4-week horizon. So that's his mindset, a 4-week horizon. And then,
I think he did say for a 4-week you could see some volatility, but longer term he was a fan.
Tesla is undeniably in a volatile spot in the stock market. A 15% drop in just a single day would make any investor nervous. And with the stock now over 50% off its all-time high, many are questioning the future of the company. But for Ron Barron, a longtime investor and staunch Tesla supporter, these price swings aren't an indication of underlying failure. Instead, they represent an opportunity. Barron's perspective on Tesla is built on a long-term vision, one where temporary fluctuations are just noise in the broader picture. Tesla's market value, in his eyes, doesn't fully reflect the potential locked within the company. While others might see risk in the market's reaction to current events, Barron sees opportunity in Tesla's ability to continue shaping multiple industries. From electric vehicles to energy, and even AI-driven innovations, Tesla is defining them. For investors like Barron, the company's future is clear. As technology advances, so too will Tesla's role as a key player in reshaping the future of mobility, sustainability, and artificial intelligence. This stock price drop is nothing more than a reflection of external forces rather than a fundamental issue within Tesla itself. Barron firmly believes that once the dust settles on current market volatility, the real value of Tesla will shine through. The company has too much going for it in terms of innovation and market positioning to be sidelined by short-term market turbulence.
If you're following Elon's moves and how government policies impact the markets, you need Seeking Alpha. It's my go-to for expert stock analysis to help you stay ahead. Check the link in the description for a special offer. Our channel may earn a commission.
Yeah, but it was focusing on 4 weeks.
Right.
And basically, I met Elon in 2010, and it took me 4 years before I invested anything. And between 2014 and 16, I invested $400 million, and we made $6-7 billion on that. And then we invested in SpaceX in 2017 on, about $1.1 billion. That's now worth about $4.5 billion. I think that over the next 10 years in SpaceX, we can make 10 times. Elon thinks we're going to make 30 times. In Tesla, I think we're going to make, from where it was $1.1 trillion, I was thinking we would make 4 times over the next 10 years. I think we're going to make more than that now from these prices.
Ron, so there's 2 issues, I think, going on with Tesla right now. I'm curious where you land. There's the fundamental issue, which is just what's happening in the economy, how many people are going to buy cars, at least the products that we know about today, right? When you think robo-taxis develop, when you think new cars come out, all of that kind of stuff. That's the actual fundamentals of the business. And then there's the multiple question, which is really a market psychology question to some degree. I mean, they're related, hopefully, but there's sort of, as I look at it, sort of 2 issues. There's multiples are coming down in everything, but then there's the actual fundamentals of the business. So you're thinking a year out, it's a lot better. And my question to you is, what happens in a year from now to the fundamentals of the business? Meaning, are they selling more cars? Do you think that they're going to launch new models that we're going to see? Do you think the robotaxi product actually does launch and it's material to the business during that period? What's the sort of catalyst?
So fundamentals. So I want to get one thing straight, though. First of all, that we're investors in people for the long term. Question everything. Don't take anything for granted. Investing for the long term. Exceptional. Takes time. We look out years. Own it. We own things. We don't buy and sell things. The far as the fundamentals go, so I want to make sure we talk about other people too, other than Elon.
I'm not talking about Elon. I'm just talking about the business.
The major guy. So his business. I mean, you wouldn't have a business without him. You wouldn't have EVs without him. You wouldn't have autonomous driving without him. You wouldn't have the internet for every inch of the planet without him. You wouldn't have rockets that you can use over without him. I'm an unbelievable engineer. And the fundamentals of the business, this is an inflection point right now. The last time I was on, the stock price was 160. And I was telling you that I thought that this was a really interesting time to buy because the the software was working way more. When they have cars, you have to have $150,000, $200,000 car. Our car is $35,000 car, and it's software. It's software and cameras, and so it's going to drive just like a person, and probably better, way better than a person. Each new series of introductions is dramatically better than the last one. So fundamentals, the changes, is that. So historically, what we did is what Tesla did is they built a facility in China. They bought this junky place that was bankrupted by Toyota and General Motors in California, and all the union workers were fired. Hear that, Joe Biden? All the union workers were fired, and then every single one lost their jobs. And then we take over this plant, and they go look at it for the first time after he buys this thing for a distressed price. They spent $1 billion on it. It cost us $20 or $30 million to buy it. And then they go to see it, and Elon says, yeah, let's go look at this place we bought. And it's a huge facility, 5 million square feet. And they can't get into it. They finally get inside, and they go with one of his friends from college as a director, and they open the door, and they look inside, and it's dark and dismal, and it's drugs and prostitution, and it's crazy stuff inside of that place. And they look around, and it's incredibly dark, and Elon's looking around, and he says, well, what we're going to do is we take off the roof here, we're going to make it all white, and we have the production line running there. And so they learn how to build it. And it was making 400,000 or 500,000 cars a year, 600,000 cars. Then they go out and they build a facility in Shanghai. And it cost them $7 billion to build it for 1 million cars. And that factory was making $15,000 in profit a car, investing $7 billion, making $15 billion a year. And then price cut after price cut after price cut. Chinese are incredible competitors. I don't understand how American car companies will survive, except for Tesla. And so I'm going too long.
But
no.
Ron, let me just ask.
But anyway, the fundamentals are changing. Instead of making $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 a car, you go into robo cars, and every time they have 1 million cars that they make, that they keep, that are $30,000 a piece that last 1 million miles, those cars are going to generate 50,000 revenue miles a year. So before the model was they're making $7,000 in profit a car, $6,000 in profit a car, 1.8 million cars. Now all of a sudden you're keeping the cars and making them robo-taxis. What that means is that if you do 50,000 miles a year for a car, those cars will generate 50,000 revenue miles, will generate $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000 in profit per year, per car. So every time you have 1 million cars, you're adding $30 or $40 or $50 billion to $30 or $40 or $50 billion to profits per year for 1 million cars. And so everyone has to deal with certain clientele, and I deal with the critiques of my clientele for how large the positions are, and if they get very large. And right now, Tesla represents
it's about 30% in one of the funds.
Well, I think it's around in Barron Partners Fund, it's about 12% of the firm assets, and SpaceX is about 9%. So about 20% of our assets. So structure portfolios. So QQQ, Bloomberg says that there's only 2 mutual funds in the United States that have beaten QQQ. It's 2,600 in the last 15 years. Barron Partners Fund is number 1. Fidelity Growth Fund is number 2. And other 2,600, no one else has come close. And so so I have shareholders in our mutual funds, and when a position gets real large, like Tesla has become, our cost is $11 or $12 a share, then they say, well, how can you have such a large position? And I made an exception after we bought as many shares as we did for clients between 14 and 16, and no one else wanted to buy stock, that I went to the board of our funds. I said I wouldn't buy any more stock, but I have to buy this stock. I'm not taking any corporate opportunity. All of the other funds I have already invested, but my deal with you, if you let me do it, and I said I wouldn't, but if you let me do it, then what I'll do is just make Barron Capital financially stronger. I'm buying it for them, not for me. And in addition to that, I'm the last in, I'll be the last out. So I won't sell a single share personally until I sell all the shares for clients. And that's what I've done. So even though we've sold maybe a third of our stock for clients, I have not sold a single share personally.
Ron, do you think the bloom is off the rose at all for the EV transition, or at least for the mandates by whether it's states or the federal government to hasten the transition? And does that matter with Tesla, since there's so many other things?
Once you get to scale, nobody can compete. The Chinese feel that there's only one competitor.
Everyone's going to want electric cars.
Yes, everyone.
Okay.
As we continue, Barron introduces a crucial element of his thinking: the broader economic landscape. He emphasizes that the fluctuations in Tesla's stock price and the market in general are not entirely organic. In his view, government policies, especially those aimed at tackling inflation and recalibrating economic policies, are playing a significant role. These moves, according to Barron, aren't random or accidental. Rather, they are intentional adjustments that are designed to guide the economy toward a more stable future. For Barron, this context helps explain why Tesla's stock has taken such a hit. While others may see it as a sign of trouble, Barron views it through a different lens. Instead of focusing on the immediate effects of inflation and policy changes, he's looking at the long-term trajectory. The reality is that Tesla's innovation, led by Elon Musk, is moving forward at full speed, and the market will eventually catch up with the company's true value. This is where Barron's long-term strategy comes into play. He's not concerned with the ups and downs of the stock price in the short run. What he sees is a company at the forefront of a transformative wave, and in his mind, the next few years will define Tesla's role in the global economy. Whether it's AI, autonomous driving, or the development of sustainable technologies, Tesla is positioned to dominate these spaces. Barron sees the current market dip as an opportunity to double down on Tesla's future, not as a sign to sell. The real game changer, Barron argues, lies in Tesla's business model and Elon Musk's far-reaching vision. For decades, we've been accustomed to the idea of a car as a single, standalone product, one that's sold, owned, and driven by individuals. But Musk's vision is shifting this paradigm completely. Instead of just selling electric vehicles, Tesla is moving toward a model where its cars become part of a larger, revenue-generating infrastructure. Barron touches on Tesla's push into autonomous driving, with the introduction of robo-taxis being a focal point of this shift. Tesla's future is about creating a fleet of self-driving cars that can operate autonomously, generating revenue year-round. Barron sees this as the next step in Tesla's evolution from a car company to a full-service transportation provider. Instead of selling cars outright, Tesla will maintain ownership of its vehicles, turning them into revenue-generating assets. The idea of robo-taxis, where each vehicle becomes a mobile, self-sustaining business, could dramatically increase Tesla's profit potential. For Barron, this is where Tesla's true future lies. These robo-taxis will not only provide transportation services to the public, but will also generate significant income for Tesla.
They can't do it. He's in Mar-a-Lago. Can't arrange it. Can't leave. Can't come in. Can't get the machine. The people in SpaceX told me that he doesn't miss any meetings. So he comes to these meetings. Same thing with Tesla. I don't understand how he's able to do all this. It's amazing, amazing what he does. But I think SpaceX is going to be, I think we're going to make 20 times in SpaceX over the next 15 years. I think we're going to make a quadruple in the next 6 or 7. Can it be too big? Sure. So I'm always watching, but I do think that we're going to get a lot more money to manage, so therefore it's going to get diluted down by the new money coming in. Always thinking about how large the position should be. Yes. So I know Joe's not a big believer in electric cars because he likes his Porsche. But I think all the cars are going to be electric, and I think this hybrid is just a sort of a holding off action so the automobile companies don't have to lose money on the electric cars. But the electric cars, I think, is going to be all the cars 10, 15 years from now. And I think hybrids, I know you love hybrids, that's not going to last either. They're too expensive, and they're not effective enough, and they're not going to be part of the mix either. So it's going to be all electric. And so what I think is going to happen is that the reason the stock is down is not because of the quarter. It's not so exciting to be up 1% in a year when everything is, the market is so strong. I don't worry about short term, but I do look around all the time and see everyone getting rich, and I'm not poor, but I haven't made a lot of progress in the last 3 years. So therefore, I think it's like a rubber band. I'm going to catch up again. So what I think about the reason the stock is down is because people were concerned that he was going to abandon the idea of having a low-cost car and go all into robo-taxis. That's the reason the stock is down. And then there was a report in Reuters said he's canceling this new factory that's going to make that's going to make low-cost cars, $25,000 cars, competition from China. So there's only one company in China that's profitable, by the way. That's BYD, Warren's company, Buffett's company. And that's a company that makes $1 billion a quarter, and our company makes $4 billion a quarter. No one else makes money. Ford loses so much. General Motors, everyone loses money on this. It's much more complicated to make these cars. It's interesting. I was talking yesterday about motors. So motors in a car cost $5,000 a car. That's what the normal, these 100-year-old companies, cost them $5,000. We can make a motor for $1,000. But if you're making the internal combustion engine cars, I'm just talking about how stagnant businesses become and how used they are to operating the way they've always operated, that they don't look for new things to do, new ways to operating oriented toward making things cheaper. He can do things for $1,000 that other people cost $5,000. It's amazing. That's if he wanted to be an electric car, a gasoline car company. All I'm pointing out is that people get entrenched, and they do things without trying to make things better and cheaper and faster all the time. There's no incentive to do that. So Munger says, "Show me the incentives, and I'll show you how people act." Mm-hmm. And that's the idea, that people, the incentive. What's the incentive for someone who's 55, 60? We got to get off of this. But the idea is that's the reason the stock's down.
And when?
Oh, it's going to go up huge now. Now is the bottom.
But do you know who else shares in pro-Tesla optimism? That would be today's sponsor, Seeking Alpha. Seeking Alpha is the best pro-Tesla news source on the internet. Click the affiliate link in the description below to get the latest Tesla offering, price targets, innovation, and everything Elon Musk. Link in the description for a very special offer.
And so what they're doing is they're going into robo-taxis, and they're going to make the low-cost car. So they're making the low-cost car, except they have excess capacity right now. They have capacity to make 3 million cars a year. They're making 1.8 million. So the 1.2 million cars they can make extra in an existing facility with no more capital, and they're not going to make the cars direct cost as cheaply as they did before, as they expected to, but overall, until they expect to do 5 million of these new cars. Well, we have a small investment in Cruise, because I wanted to see what they're doing. And Waymo is, their cars are $250,000, and they're trying to take cost out. And for us, it's software. And so basically, the advantage that we have right now at Tesla is that they've sold 6 million cars, and 3.5 or 4 million are collecting data. So the data is what's really valuable. They're doubling their amount of compute every night. In California, last Sunday I was in Vail, because I want to see what they're doing with AI in the mountain and capital spending. And then that was on Sunday. And then on Monday, I was in SpaceX in LA in the morning with some engineers and some finance people. And the afternoon, I went to Tesla, and I was with the autonomous driving people and also the compute people. And then afterwards, they said to me, "Ron, would you like to see how we've made unbelievable advances?" The first 11 versions had to be designed so that they had code every single thing that happened.
Right, and now it's all AI.
It was impossible. And so therefore, they weren't making progress for 2 or 3 years. They were at a plateau. And now what's happened, they have version 12. They have all this enormous amounts of data, and now they have compute to figure out, humans can't do it. Now they have compute to figure everything out. And so now you're on the verge with autonomous driving in your car. So I said, okay, show me. So we do the few hours, couple, 3 hours, and then before I'm going to go back to New York, I say, okay, so I want to see how it works. So we go into the parking lot, and we get into the car, and I have an analyst with me, and then they had the compute person, and they had an investor person, and so we're sitting in the car, and so where do you want to go? I said, I want to see Steve Jobs' house. And say, okay, so they punch in the address, and we get into the car drives around by itself. Didn't do it, all we did is punch it in. Drive around the parking lot, goes to the road, there's traffic going both ways, it looks both ways, looking for an entry to get in, gets an entry, pulls in, makes a left-hand turn, drives right behind cars in front of us, there's a stop sign, first car stops, goes, second car stops, goes, we pull up the stop sign, car looks both directions, makes a right-hand turn, just drives. And then all of a sudden there's a pedestrian crossing the street. The car stops to let the pedestrian cross the street. The pedestrian, I don't know if I was being set up on this, but the pedestrian waves, and then the car starts going again. Then it pulls up, then it makes a left-hand turn, and then goes in front of Steve Jobs' house. It's a nice house. It was just a house, though. I was expecting a house, but it was a house. And so stopped in front of Steve Jobs' house. Then he has that house, and he doesn't, his wife does, the house next door. Then they had looks like 3/4 of an acre for sale next door for $15 million. They didn't go back. It drove all by itself. So what's going to happen is that I thought the idea had been that you're going to sell a lot of cars. So as a result of that, once they have those cars out there, you'll sell autonomous driving. And he said the other day that he's negotiating to sell autonomous driving for some other cars too. No one has the compute, no one has the data. If they're making cars, they make $7,000 in profit a car for a car they're selling for $35,000, minus the $7,500. I want to just make a comment about two comments about, number one, how it's the safest car that's ever been built in the world. The safest car ever built in the world. And about a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, there was a man who took his wife and two children, two daughters, and drove it off a cliff 250 feet above the ground, and at 71 miles an hour. He was trying to commit suicide and murder at the same time. The car flies off the cliff and tumbles down to the bottom, and the roof on a Tesla is 30 or 40% stronger than any other roof, and the center of gravity is the middle of the car instead of the front of the car. And it rolls down to the bottom of the hill, and everyone's looking down, and then they lower people down, and they open the doors, and people just sitting there. They were fine. Yeah, so unhurt. And so I told Elon he has to text about this and tell people that if they want to commit suicide, they should not be driving a Tesla. They should drive, a Bentley. Drive a Bentley, drive it up the cliff, you'll die. Don't do it in a Tesla. So number one, the safest car ever been built. And of course he tweeted about that. Number two, Toyota. So Michael Barron, my son, and I went to visit Toyota in Japan a couple months ago. And we were meeting with an executive, and we had a translator with us because we don't speak Japanese. That guy did speak English. And so we started asking him questions, and initially it starts off, he's responding in answering my questions in English, and then all of a sudden he switches to Japanese. And it happens every time there's a type of question. He starts off with English and then goes to Japanese. And I finally say, listen, I can't have a conversation with you when you have a translator, and I'm listening to this translator. I got to talk to you in English. And so it's nothing. And then we walk out, and this whole strategy behind Toyota was they are negative about electric cars. Right. And what he wanted to do is he said, we want to have the lowest cost of mobility in the whole world. And so as a result of that, rich people, they can plug in their cars. If you're a lot of places, there's not electricity, so you can't plug it in. So we're not into that. That was what we took away. So we walk out, and I said, Michael, I don't understand any strategy that they have here. This reminds me sort of Sony in the 1970s. They're just stuck in their ways. But I don't know. We never heard the strategy. And he said, Dad, I've never been more bullish about Tesla. And what do you know? The head of Toyota just retired yesterday or the day before, last week. He's the grandson of the founder. And he says, I'm too old for doing this. He was 65. I'm 79. So basically, he says, I'm too old for doing this. The bottom line is that the head of Volkswagen gets fired. The head of Ford, Mark Field, gets fired because they had bad strategies, bad people. And Mark Field came to visit me a few years ago. You couldn't believe the negative things he told me about Elon Musk. All wrong. And just he had a bad strategy, not a great executive. Okay, I shouldn't say that. All right, good guy.